This is Metabolic Radio, the podcast dedicated to keeping you informed when it comes to everything fitness. My name is Taylor Empey, and with the help of my co-host Shane Pace, we aim to expose the truths about the health and fitness industry. The information and suggestions given in this podcast should not be considered as clinical or medical advice. Consult with a physician before implementing any information provided on this podcast. All right, and we're here with another episode.
Where?
Right here.
Right here.
Right here, right now.
Feet.
Isn't that a song?
Yeah. I'm sure it is somewhere.
Welcome to Metabolic Radio, where we expose the truths about the health and fitness industry.
As long as that's all we expose.
Yeah, well.
My mic is on. I was going to say my phone is now silent.
I got you to put your phone away, on your own accord, of your own accord.
Well, it's because I didn't bring a battery just in case.
So is it just dead?
It will be.
Good.
Marcus will be.
No more distractions.
I just did a really old quote. I quoted a name.
Did you age yourself? You don't have to do that.
No, but that...
See, when you say something that's a joke from a time before mine, and I don't respond,
yeah.
You just made a joke that makes you sound
old.
And
I was well aware that is way outside the realm of you watching. Yes.
So, guess what we're talking about today?
I actually have no idea.
I'll give you a clue. It's the most
does that have to do with
the
biceps?
most researched and I would argue one of the most popular supplements of all time.
That's fair. Because now I know what you're
So you
about.
know what it is, right?
I do now.
What is it?
It is Creatine.
Creatine?
That's the place. That's Crete.
Creatine.
Cretans are those from Crete. Anyway,
yeah. So creatine.
I am joking. I'm not joking.
So the reason we're going to talk about this one is because, one, it has been the most heavily researched supplement. Why are your eyes closed?
Because I was closing them.
Are you going to doze off today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I bet.
Ooh,
That's okay.
It's
okay. I'll provide our listeners with value.
Considering that
education.
we have relocated this mic, I am not used to this.
You know what would be awesome?
Drinking water is going to be
We'll eventually get to this topic, but what'll be awesome is in the future when we can live broad. Well, actually, wait. In the future, you could totally do this right now. We should totally do a live episode with
Collins.
We could do Collins. Yes. We could do Collins.
No,
but put a instant message feed. Put an instant message feed on the computer.
Idea,
I like
actually.
this. I like this idea.
Sarcastic about the phone.
We'd have to schedule it though and make sure people show up. Otherwise, that would be pretty.
Okay. Okay. Next person. Okay, we got no colors. That would be hilarious.
How about that, people? If you want us to do a live instant message Q&A episode. I mean, we won't be able to air it live necessarily, streaming it live, but we will.
We could do that.
Maybe you'll have to figure it out because I don't know how to do that.
It's not that hard.
But we could record it with people actually submitting us questions.
It's very simple, actually.
Live. Oh, okay. Well, you get to figure out that because I figure out everything else.
We could easily do it on YouTube.
You can live stream on YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's happening everywhere now. It's
That's
Facebook
true.
And stuff like that. So
it is true. Okay,
but anyway, so creatine. The reason people should have information about this is it's one of the most popular supplements. It's been around quite a while, and it's one of the most heavily researched supplements. And people have a lot of. It seems like people feel like there's a lot of controversy around creatine, which we're going to dispel. But
I guess I'm jumping the gun.
Oh, what were you going to say?
I said, which there's not. That's ridiculous. And then,
yeah, that we're going to dispel.
We're going to, and I said, well, I guess I shouldn't have said that yet. We should put that. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. Thank you for listening.
Creatine is effective. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
No, okay. So there's a lot of different types of creatine. There's
sort of.
Well, yeah, you know what?
In theory, there's not, but
I'm saying synthetic versions.
Right, fair.
So you've got creatine monohydrate,
which is the number one.
Creatine. Thanks for spoiling it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Might as well not even talk about the others. I'm not. I'm just going to mention them because they're of no importance. Creatine monohydrate, creatine ethyl ester,
we can talk about
tricreatine malate, buffered creatine, micronized creatine, liquid creatine, and conjugated. So
that's not all of them.
What else? What other ones I'm missing? Some.
Oh my gosh!
This is just what I got off the top of my head.
Oh, that's great. That's close enough. I mean, you did leave out a couple that I know of, but
okay. Well, regardless, like I said, pointless being because creatine monohydrate is the most effective.
I wouldn't call it the most effective. It's the most studied, and it is.
Well, that's true. I guess it seems to be the most effective because of the research that is
bang for the buck. It's probably the best bang for the buck, in my opinion.
I've still used micronized creatine, and I've seen benefits there personally, anecdotally.
Just really small.
Micronized results.
I got great.
If you want results, but you want them to be small.
Really small results.
Really small micro results.
I like
it. But so... Yeah, most of the research obviously is going to support creatine monohydrate. Now, whether
that's been the most researched one anyway.
That is the version of creatine that has been researched the most. So there could be a little bit of a skew there. But okay, so what is creatine? It's a naturally occurring acid that's it's produced endogenously from
endogenously.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Big words. I'd like to throw big words in there.
Yeah.
It's produced from amino acids, specifically arginine, glycine, and methionine. Okay. But you can get the majority of your creatine needs, and for some people, probably all their creatine needs, through diet alone. Do you remember what has the highest traces of creatine in it?
The highest traces?
Naturally occurring.
Would it possibly be beef?
It would be, and it would be steak specifically.
Strange. I didn't know that. But you just said it, sir. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're looking to get a good dose of creatine, probably I'm going off the top of my head roughly about 5 grams of creatine in like a full 8-ounce steak, wouldn't you say?
It's probably more like 12 ounce, but yeah. 10.
Bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can get a good dose of a few grams of creatine just from that. So
sure.
If you're like, well, should I buy a creatine supplement, or should I just get naturally occurring through my diet? Obviously, we lean towards getting it in your diet first. However, other uses for supplementing creatine at other times throughout the day, yes. It looks like you were going to say something. What's up?
It's okay. I'll let you continue.
Okay. You sure? You can say something.
No,
you can argue with me. That's fine.
No, I'm not arguing because we agree on this completely. Sadly, I want to argue. I'll try and find something that I can pick apart that's really a completely crappy argument, and we'll discuss this.
Okay, no, just go with the common misconceptions, which we're going to get into anyway. But
well, it is like taking steroids.
What? that is actually one of the that's one of the things that I've heard is people think it's a steroid.
Yeah, it's very hard on your body.
Yeah, super hard.
Because,
no, it's an amino acid.
Your body actually produces it itself too, so it's really hard on you. You shouldn't have it in your body. So if it produces it, have it sucked out as fast as you can. I am on a just absolute smart out.
Yeah, you are. We're confusing people. We're here supposed to be educating people, and they don't know whether we're being honest or sarcastic.
No, that's true. I'm sorry.
Like, so what advice do I follow?
For this. The honest to goodness truth is Taylor is pretty much really serious right now, and
I try to be.
I'm really not.
I just imagine if I wasn't as organized as I am. I don't think we'd cover anything.
No, I would destroy this conversation every time. I would get really sarcastic every time.
All right.
Well, it's probably not true. Because I get pretty pointed when I start to talk.
That's true. When
I get serious.
When you get serious.
Yeah.
That's usually when you're emotional.
That's true. I'm usually not.
It's during your time of the month.
I have my one emotion. It's usually anger.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into it a little deeper.
Okie dokie.
So functions of creatine that is proven to be effective is it improves the cellular energy. Metabolic pathways, metabolic energy pathways that are used. We've talked a little bit about them, especially in the muscle fibers episode. ATP. Yeah, but you base on, and we're going to do a quick blanket cover of it. But basically, your first, and this is going from high intensity to lower intensity activity. You're going to start off with pure ATP or adenosine triphosphate, and the breaking of that bond is what releases energy. Creatine phosphate is the second most readily available source of energy. It's depleted within a matter of seconds if you're doing high-intensity activity. Then it goes later on to glycogen, which comes from food, oxygen, triglycerides or fats, and so on, in terms of your energy sources, depending on the activity you're doing. So creatine is primarily used during high-intensity activity.
Bursts.
Yeah. Just because if you, like, that's a good thing to clarify, because if someone's doing high-intensity interval training, their creatine is gone early through the majority of their workout. It's done early. Yeah. So during specifically short, explosive power type movements.
Right.
So it increases the available creatine in the body to produce more energy. So you're going to see a lot of claims that it's going to increase energy output, strength, those kind of things.
Which has actually been proven scientifically.
Yeah, yeah. So what it basically does is it also helps improve the contractile force and sensitivity, which thus affects the strength output.
Exactly right.
So you have more forcible contractions, increasing strength.
Based on the energy. It's the energy output that causes that capacity. So.
Yeah. Yep. So those are the primary functions for its use, and thus that's why it's an ergogenic aid. An ergogenic aid is a performance-enhancing substance, not a performance-enhancing drug. That's a different category of things. So it is it's because it increases your performance and strength output. It complementary to muscle development.
Agreed. And
which is more of an outcome just by taking creatine. Just like if I were to just take creatine sitting here and being sedentary, I'm not necessarily going to develop muscle. But
no. It won't
an
do
energy.
Like that.
It's you utilize it for energy.
It helps with hydration as well.
Yeah, it does. It's actually, and that's one of the misconceptions, is that it's has in the past been rumored to dehydrate you, when in fact, if you look, we're going to dispel a few things.
Yeah, but I want to talk about that for 2 seconds because you can dispute me because I'm going to dispute that for 2 seconds. Though the studies do show long term that it does the exact opposite. I think in short term it actually does.
In the short term, it dehydrates you, but you're saying the studies show that in long term it dehydrates you?
No, that it does not dehydrate.
Oh, okay. So you're saying
research
shows that long term it hydrates.
It hydrates.
And you're saying, but in the short term it dehydrates.
I think in the short term it has an effect.
So why do you say that?
Because I believe it absorbs the liquid as it's being put into the system.
Yeah, so it increases
it pulls the hydration to itself, and then as it gets there, it's there to be held in for use, and because of that, you can have a cramping type reaction at first if you don't have it in your system.
I've got the studies here.
I know, and that's the reason why I'm throwing that out there.
So some of
we did discuss this study beforehand, and I am somewhat in agreement with prior belief that it can potentially cause you to have cramping type issues originally. But overall, like we've talked about before you get into the study, I believe that's not the case, and I always have believed it is not the case long term. As long as you keep yourself using creatine on a consistent basis and your body's not having a lacking of it. But when you let it drop to a low level, I believe it does. I think that's what the difference is. Okay. But I'm curious to know about the study because I have not read it.
So, so let's just cover some of the main misconceptions, which are that creatine dehydrates you.
Okay.
Well, I guess
no.
You could call them misconceptions, or you could say that what's debated, right?
Because
there's research on both sides.
I agree with that.
But the more recent research, at least that I've read, shows that these are misconceptions.
Well, and overall, like I said, creatine has been shown to hydrate, period. If you want to go long term, without question, it's been proven, and any study that's been debunked. I make that word up. I pretty much made that word up. So
hey,
Sue, that's for you.
We said it at the same time.
I just continued. Anyway, debunked. We're going to keep that in our. That is now.
Add that one to the Metabolic Radio vocabulary.
Yes, that is in our vernacular.
That's alongside calcified.
No, calcification.
Remember the other episode? I said calcified.
Oh, it doesn't matter, dude. That's acceptable. Hey, just because the word
sounds like a word
sense,
and you can spell it.
If that's what I'm saying, just because the word doesn't make sense doesn't mean it's not a word.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
It's still a word. It's still
a word.
It is itself.
Absolutely, even if it's only by itself.
How am I not myself?
Exactly.
Hopefully you catch that reference.
Yes. Anyway.
But anyway.
We digress bad. Wow, this one's way off topic.
Misconceptions or what topics about creatine that are debated are whether or not it hydrates you or dehydrates you, whether it causes or actually improves cramping, and whether it increases the risk of injury, or that's alongside part of the cramping, increases or decreases risk of injury, as well as has a negative impact on renal function. So, from what I've researched, and I've done a substantial amount,
you haven't talked about safety. That it's not safe. We'll discuss that too. Anyway,
it is safe.
I didn't say it wasn't safe. I said as one of the misconceptions.
I see what you mean. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's implied based off of these debated topics, because it could be implied that it would be not safe if it dehydrated you, caused renal damage, and cramping and potential injury. However, like I said, looking at the more recent research, it shows that creatine, in fact, hydrates you. Now, whether that's short-term or long-term, that's one thing that I'd like to clarify.
Yeah, that's what I was curious if it's in that
to look at.
Study.
I actually, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, like, because you bring that point up in terms of short-term versus long-term.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's the problem, is if somebody's not consuming it on a consistent basis in one way or another.
So what do you think? Why do you think, just from your opinion, why would it cause dehydration in the short term and then all of a sudden change long term just by consistently taking it?
Well, because the nature of the way I perceive it. Okay, and again, this is a perception thing. This is far from a scientific look, but is that it would, like I said, it would pull water away from the muscle, if you will, to itself first, to hold on to it, and because the muscle wasn't actually using conjunction. I mean, it wasn't using it.
So you're saying because it's just pulling available fluid out of the circulatory process?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying basically the muscle swells up, soaking up water.
That's the idea.
You're dehydrated in the short term, but as you continue to hydrate, the right hydration balance takes place.
Well, the longer that's there as well, because then it's being used in the process, and it's going to be, as it's breaking down, it's going to be part of the release of the liquids anyway, because that's going to, in the energy release is going to be kind of a lot of the hydration is going to come from that, in my belief. But I haven't got a good scientific backing on that. That's a thought process more than a reality.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting to see. So as for what isn't the next one I mentioned?
I can't even tell you because it's clear.
I know
over
it's
there.
it's right over here.
I need a monitor.
So, renal function. There's been a lot of studies on this, and it has actually proven that at least in certain populations, meaning they've studied it on healthy athletes. So this could be different for, different populations of people, but that long-term supplementation does not impair renal function at all. And there's multiple studies that have been done on this to show that it's not going to negatively impact kidneys and filtration.
Right.
So that's one of the concerns that people have,
which is funny to me because it's really not. It's not, the kidneys aren't really affected by it. It doesn't really get processed through the liver and kidneys so much as in the muscle itself.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that.
Well, I know,
like, because some people will sometimes see like elevated creatinine levels on blood panels as a result, and then as a result, it's believed that it's going to impair function. When it just it's from this research, we could get into the deep methodology and everything of each of these studies, but I'm basically, people have told me, some for podcast information, like a lot of the time they're like, well, tell me what I need to know. You don't have to always go into the deep nitty gritty, even though you and I like to.
Oh yes, we do.
I know that some people get lost.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, got the research to show it.
Well, and I want to throw this out there, and we're doing a really good job. And when I say we, it's the royal we, myself. We being me. are being quite distracting in this conversation and being off topic. So,
I don't think that you're going off topic. I think that you're just holding me from continuing the topic.
there's some truth to that. I am slowing the topic.
All right. So next one is whether it can cause muscle damage through cramping and potential injury. Again, looking at there's that. Okay, so this one study and I'm giving you kind of a general overview of it, was basically conducted on college football teams, and they looked at multiple components of the use and supplementation of creatine that looked at, did it impair renal function? Did it obviously improve performance or not? Did it cause incidences of cramping and injury or not? And also an interesting aspect of it was they also looked at, did it impact athlete attendance to games and practices by supplementing with it? Because there's that thought that it could cause injury
because of the idea that they couldn't perform. So when did this transpire? I asked that question, didn't I?
You're good. It's fine. It's up here somewhere. But
that makes you really close to your mic. It makes you loud.
I believe the one that I'm referring to, it might be 2003.
Oh, so it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit, but I mean, still,
no, it's not like it's really.
It's not like 90s or further.
And that's still technically irrelevant. They've done a lot of studies to back this kind of stuff up anyway.
Yeah,
it's not like this is not the only study that's just out there on this. But
yep, yeah, it's 2003. But anyway, so at least through the parameters that this was conducted, they saw that in fact, it didn't dehydrate. It didn't cause any negative effects on renal function. It did not cause incidences of cramping or injuries, muscle strains, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And in fact, weird enough, there's probably other control factors that need to be looked at, but those who were supplementing creatine actually had higher attendance rates than those who weren't.
Or they'd have higher performance too.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would make
obviously
sense.
That's a given. We know it's an effective performance enhancing substance. So pretty much that, and there's other studies as well that'll support a lot of these claims. That pretty much this is why creatine has been able to be marketed. I mean, not legally, but has been kind of endorsed somewhat as a safe and effective supplement. One, because it's the most heavily studied supplement out of all of supplements, and just because the research continues to show that these factors are true, that it is safe in these regards.
But it is steroidal.
No, it's not. That's false.
Gosh, that's all I get. That's the only response I get from that little jab. Gosh, that hurts me. I'm hurt. I'm hurt to my core.
You're hurt by me?
I'm hurt to my core.
Oh, shush.
To the core.
So, yeah. So, I mean, people, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And as with anything, I mean, I'm sure you can go find studies that are going to show that what we're saying is incorrect, right? And we can debate it. But when you look at how long it's been studied for, and you look at all the different methodology and how it has been, what everything leans more towards, creatine can be a very useful and effective, and for most populations, I'm sure there's like that one random incident where it could be a potentially harmful thing for someone, but that, as with any supplements,
to something, but
I mean, as with anybody,
but let's
like you could say, hey, whey protein is perfectly safe because it's naturally derived. Well, someone who's lactose intolerant or allergic or something could obviously have a reaction to it.
Would have they would have.
So is it 100%? No, but is it vastly?
Well, let's take that as a semi myth that we'll destroy right now. So if you were having lactose type reactions with the creatine,
no, I was saying in reference to.
I get that, but I'm going to take that as a comparison. So
why would you have a lactose reaction to creatine?
A lactose type reaction.
Oh, an allergic reaction.
An allergic reaction,
or an intolerant reaction.
They would die because it's produced by the body. So that they can't. something that was mixed with it potentially could be a problem. Creatine itself, I completely disagree, would ever be a problem to anyone. If your body naturally produces it, it's like the idea.
Well, okay, here, like, I mean, it's circumstantial because, let's say you have somebody who's already in renal failure, right, or who is on dialysis, or something. You know what I mean?
Adding a what's the word I'm looking for? Exorbitant amount potentially could be bad.
So that's a good point. Yeah, and yes, but
my point is creatine is actually produced by the body, so the body itself would kill itself, and so that child, a person that had that kind of problem, would die very young.
Yeah, if that's even a actual thing. But
if that's a thing, right? If somebody was allergic to, say, water, they're probably not going to be alive.
But what I was going to say is the right amount is what specifically people need to focus on, because like we've talked about, water can kill you, right? If in excess, anything can kill you in excess.
That is true.
So when it comes to creatine, what is popular is the utilization of loading phases. I have yet, and I'm sure I haven't seen it all, right? But I have yet to see research that supports loading phases as a more effective means of creatine supplementation than simply taking creatine consistently.
Okay, not that I'm going to quote any case of that.
No, you're good.
Any case that you're going to find that does do that, it's going to be based on a producer of creatine.
Might have a bias,
inherent bias. Would have a bias, because there is no reason. From anything that I've ever read, there is no reason to do a loading phase.
So what a loading phase is, people, if you don't know what that is, it's basically where either the manufacturer or the supplement company will recommend that you buy the product and that you take, in my opinion, copious amounts of the supplement, multiple servings.
You use the word copious.
Right. Take multiple servings for a period of a day, multiple days, a few weeks, to quote unquote kind of build up your creatine stores. And at that point, then they have you like wean down to kind of a normal dosage.
A smaller dosage, because it's still higher than the average that they would recommend.
Yeah. Now, if you look at most of the research, it's going to all generally point towards that is not necessarily the case. You don't have to do loading phases, and that they aren't necessarily more effective than the normal clinically effective dose, which is about 5 grams daily.
You're talking, when you're talking a loading phase, you're talking taking like 20 grams.
Oh yeah, 5, 10, 20. I feel like I've seen, but I couldn't quote anything. I feel like I've seen above 20 grams, like 25.
Oh yeah. But in my opinion, and this is definitely an opinion piece, but there's a lot of backing to it. The only reason to load is to make people money.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's just like I think we've talked about it too, where they say protein companies say, well, don't go catabolic, don't let your muscle break down, so take your protein. Like I will say this, Jim Stepani, I'm going to say it, from a program that I had looked at of his, recommends taking 20-ish grams of protein first thing when you wake up, because you've been fasting, or you've been sleeping and fasting for 8 hours or more, and so you run the risk of going catabolic, which if you look at the science, it proves unless you're actually breaking down muscle and not re-nourishing yourself, you won't go catabolic. Most men won't go catabolic for 48 hours.
40 to 72.
Yeah. And women even takes longer. So that
potentially go catabolic.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about general research, right? So there's different scenarios, but in different cases and instances, but that's what it generally points to. So when you're talking about, okay, you got to take 20 grams or 25 grams or something of protein when you first wake up, have your breakfast, and then as a meal replacement, take protein powder in between your meals so you don't go catabolic, and then you got to have 1 to 2 servings post-workout so that you don't go catabolic. What's happening now? You're consuming 3, 4, 5 servings of protein every day. So guess what? You're going to run out of protein in like a week or 2. You're going to have to buy a whole new tub, and the sales increase.
For sure. No, absolutely. And that's and I'm not going to say that he does or does not, the name you're throwing out there being Jim, but have a bias, because I believe he does, since he puts it out there.
Well, yeah.
That being said, I'm not pointing fingers.
Yeah, I'll just say, when the program that I'm referring to, I don't even remember the name of it. This was prior to his own supplement line, so I'll just say that. But just to be objective. However,
I believe his early programs were like 12 weeks to shred.
Something like that, yeah. But I mean, now, of course, there's an inherent bias to anything he says supplement-wise, because he has his own line.
Right. And that's an automatic. And
with anybody. And I'm not just trying to point fingers at him, but anybody. That's just a name that I had off the top of my head because it was relevant.
And I'm going to say that if somebody has a supplement line, they're going to have a bias because they believe it's true. I mean, it's not that they're necessarily throwing out stuff to sell, but they believe it because if they believe it, they're going to be putting out products. We've talked about it, especially outside of this. And I have some belief in some supplements that I think they're actually beneficial to people for different reasons.
Yeah, and like when it comes to giving supplement recommendations or suggestions myself to other people, it really comes down to this: do you need it,
or can you meet for it?
Yeah, do you have a reason? And
that's the best way to say it, right?
And can you meet your need through diet? Right, because here you could just as easily wake up. And instead of having a scoop of 20 grams of protein, you could just have 4 eggs.
Agreed.
And guess what? It's a better quality protein because it's a naturally occurring protein.
I 100 times over agree with
it. So if but same thing with creatine. If you like to eat red meat and you're having multiple servings of red meat a day, you're good. You don't need to supplement with creatine.
I hate to admit that I actually like the taste of whey proteins, and so that's why I go to it. See, creatine
because it's all sweetened.
Well, partly, yeah, but
it's probably going to taste like crap.
No, I'm not denying that. But the ones that I have, I kind of like the taste of it. It's grown on me. It probably is an acquired taste. Again, probably not the best reason to take it, but it's my candy. So you know what I mean. But that being said, to push this back to creatine specifically, the thing with creatine is. If you're eating red meats, you're taking creatine. And that includes. So
here's if you're worried about renal function, right?
Right.
Taking 5 grams of creatine versus taking, we'll have to look it up to give you the exact number, but we'll say somewhere between an 8 and a 12-ounce steak, or cut that into however many servings. You're taking in the same amount of creatine.
Right.
So, and in fact, it would take longer to break down the solid food versus the powdered supplement.
No,
so
sure.
You're going to have the same impact on renal function, arguably, as you would with consuming normal food sources of it.
No, legitimately.
In the same amounts.
So, but I guess the point is this safe for? Let's even do ludicrous numbers. A little dude, like 4-year-old to take. I think it is.
Because you think it's safe?
I think creatine's completely safe for anybody.
So a 4-year-old?
Sure.
So why do you say that?
Why not? Can they
because
eat steak?
Their body is a microcosm of an adult body,
I
and
get that.
The percentages of what they could intake,
I'm not
micronutritionally speaking, is going to be less.
And the body's going to push out the stuff it doesn't need. So my question is can they eat a steak? Absolutely they can.
Yeah, but they can't have a 12-ounce steak.
They probably wouldn't be able to digest a 12-ounce steak.
That's what I'm
because
saying. They wouldn't be able to process a full dose of.
There's definitely some people that could that were at that age.
But I mean, come on.
Like I said, I guess my point is it safe for them? I think it is. I don't think it's going to do any damage to a kid. I don't think it's going to do any, and I don't see any evidence.
We'd have to see evidence that's even tested on that population, and I doubt there's a study on 4-year-olds taking creatine.
And I'm not suggesting that I'm telling everybody to go out and have a kid take it. What I'm saying is it's safe enough that I think someone could.
Yeah, I get your point. I just think
that's
a little bit.
That's my point.
Too radical the other direction.
I'm willing to go radical the other direction on that, just because the whole nature of this is the body itself produces it. Their bodies do as well. And
I agree with you that it is a safe, effective supplement, but to go that far, I don't want to put out there that I'm recommending. It's excessive. You don't even have to go to that point, and there's nothing to really support it yet. So.
I'm just saying that if someone's in high school, junior high school, even elementary school, they could take it.
You could have said 14-year-old. You didn't have to say 4-year-old. It's not even relevant.
I just went there. That's because I wanted to. I went small. I did that on purpose. Though.
Yeah.
But like I said, my point is, it's not that they should be taking it. We've talked many times that supplements usually are extreme anyway, but the reality is it's safe.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going with it. My point.
So there are some individuals out there that'll say that it could be potentially harmful to a younger group. Let's say a teenager who not a 4-year-old, but a teenager who wants to build muscle, right? Mm-hmm. Just because it's performance enhancing does not mean it's going to give you a crazy boost of.
It's not like it's a steroid.
Yeah, you're barely going to feel it, if anything. Like, it's not like caffeine's more powerful than that. Caffeine is an ergogenic aid that is probably in ways in different ways is more noticeable and impacting than creatine.
Is, without question.
So if you're saying that creatine is dangerous for a teenager to take, then you might as well just say teenagers can't have coffee because it's too dangerous.
Well, I don't drink coffee, so
I would you get what I'm saying, though.
But again, that's kind of my point. Now,
it's not like
it's less, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, it's less safe for a kid to have high levels of caffeine than it would be for them to have, even a young one, than have creatines. Now, granted, you made a very valid point before when you go extreme. Extreme amounts, you never know. You never know because they're still small, their bodies are developing. But overall, because their body already produces that kind of things.
But I mean, in terms of the amount of performance, is it a noticeable?
It's not going to give. I don't think it'll give a boost to a kid.
Is it a noticeable amount of performance? Yes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a recommended or scientifically studied and backed supplement.
Agreed.
Is it enough performance that it's going to cause injury? At least based off the research, no. Now I get that the research has been done on different populations. However, I have yet to see research that suggests that it's dangerous for a teenager specifically to take it. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you just want to kick me about the 4-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm gonna mope.
That's fine.
It's all right. I'm just kidding. I never mope. Who am I kidding? No, but like I said, I think that's the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's pretty safe for anybody to take it. Is it going to affect
healthy individuals?
Well, healthy individuals. Fair, because you never know. We don't have any. I have never read a study on anything dealing with someone who has.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, dude, I don't even know why we didn't talk about this. Creatine, also performance completely aside.
Cognitive stuff.
Yes,
yeah,
creatine.
Good for that.
Creatine has been utilized in cases with neurological and cognitive disorders, and has shown quite effective actually in treatment of Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and I want to say epileptics, but I can't say for sure. I can't remember.
I've heard rumor on it, but I haven't read on it. So
I can't remember if I'm blending ketogenic studies on epilepsy, which is obviously
there's a lot of studies on epilepsy and keto.
Yeah, but I can't remember if creatine specifically with epilepsy.
I've heard in passing rumors of that in things that I've read, but I have never read any studies on it myself, so I can't voice on that truly.
But yeah,
I don't have a true opinion.
If you have cognitive neurological disorders in your family history or in family members yourselves, and you're curious, look up the research on the use, and because I couldn't tell you proper dosages and things like that and what populations specifically, but I know I've looked at it a little bit, so you can look at that yourselves and kind of determine, is creatine something I should take or a family member should take for cognitive and neurological reasons, because there's quite a bit to support that it helps with treatment and positive outcomes with people in suffering from those conditions.
Oh yes, no, there's quite a bit of evidence in that direction. So I kind of want to go one other direction that we haven't touched, and I don't want to do it in depth because it's something that we probably should talk about in another episode in more detail, but I want to talk about steroidals dealing with this kind of thing as well, because people compare this to something like steroids or a pro-hormone or any of those other performance enhancers.
PEDs, performance enhancing drugs.
Right. And so the thing is, there is no real comparison between the two.
They're completely different substances.
They're completely different, and how they react is completely different. Yeah. So let's take let's take teenagers doing what is actually an illegal substance at this time, steroids shots. Okay, and they take it and they do an injection, and they're 16 years old.
Like testosterone specifically.
Yeah, with just the normal what they would call a steroid. So.
They're anabolic hormones.
They're on steroids. So they take their injection. What's it going to do? It's going to affect hugely their hormones. Their hormones are going to go completely out of whack.
Synthetic hormone.
Absolutely, and it's going to make it so they can have a plummet with one injection. Okay, there's no way you're going to have any kind of effect like that from anything dealing with.
Yeah, because it's an energy pathway, like substrate basically that it is not. I mean, could you say there might be a link to it impacting hormone levels? potentially in terms of strength output but it's not on any kind of hardly measurable level as a synthetic hormone, obviously.
No,
but people don't understand what these different substances are in their nature. Like, it's an amino acid. It's literally in food. Like,
exactly what I mean. My point is if you take a synthetic or even a naturally based testosterone type shot, it's going to affect your test levels as a male in a huge way, and potentially will make them plummet forever.
Whether you're male or female,
agreed,
depending on what you're taking.
Agreed, but it could affect your hormone base for the rest of your life from one shot. Okay, creatine's not like that because it's in your foods. It's produced by the body. Your body produces testosterone, and this is the reason why I want to bring this up. When you start to take injections, it'll cause your testosterone levels to plummet. And because it doesn't
your
need
natural production,
right? Because your body doesn't need it anymore.
Your test levels will actually probably increase because of the additional supplementation, but your body's output will start to decrease because it doesn't need it. It says,
exactly right.
This is coming in from my outside environment, and so I don't need to produce this.
Right, homeostasis is what it's going back for. So it's trying to level itself out. So it changes the whole nature. And I mean, I can go through and throw out a whole bunch of stuff we don't need to talk about in this one, but. It does all these things to make it so your testosterone will come down to a normal level. In doing so, it could change it on a permanent basis from one shot. It may or may not. The odds are high if you're a teenager. It goes down as you get to a point where you're more stable.
But this depends on what you're taking, what dosage you're taking, and because actually
it does
taking clinical dosages when being monitored from a physician or doctor or clinic.
That's different than what we're talking about.
I know, but they might give you the patch, they might give you the oil, they might give you a consumable, they might give you a shot, depending on the person.
Right, and some will be slower.
But I've had clients who have been given...
But they aren't 16 years old.
That's true, yeah.
And that's my point.
Different population, different
That's what I'm
levels.
saying. That's what I'm saying. When you start to get to a certain age ratio... Let me finish my thought process, and then you can air in. When you start hitting a certain age range, you have less risk. It doesn't mean your risk goes away, but your risk goes down dramatically. When you're a teenager... Because
you're right in the middle of puberty and all these different
and your hormones
changes
are going
already.
Crazy, right?
And,
right. And
that makes sense.
So it can mess with you for the rest of your life. Something like creatine isn't going to mess with your natural production of creatine, in my opinion, especially because... you get it in foods anyway. If that was going to happen when you're eating, you're going to shut your production down of creatines because your body does it naturally, right? Your body puts out creatine naturally. If outside sources like, I don't know, we'll just use steaks because it's an easy one. If you eat steaks and you're 17 years old, it's not going to make us. There's no evidence to support in any way that would hurt you.
Yeah.
With testosterone, which is very often compared when people are worried about it. What's going to happen? It's going to affect it in a big way because your hormone base changes dramatically, and so because of that, you can for the rest of your life be messed up.
Oh yeah,
but you're not going to have that kind of reaction from a creatine because it just doesn't do that. It's in your food.
It's not a hormone.
It's around us all the time. Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right. And I just want people to understand that that's something that potentially they could look at.
You would have vitamin D would affect your testosterone more than creatine ever would.
Substantially. Yeah. But like I said, that's the comparison. Is they compare those two the most because it has such a big effect. And my I guess my point is for a safety side of it, and that's why I kind of went the extreme by throwing out a 4-year-old, is I don't think it's going to affect them in an extremely negative way. That being said, they don't need it. And if they get a hold of it, it's not like it's a poison. It's not going to hurt them. But there's no reason for them to take it at that age. When they start to do things like exercise especially if they go into a high school level sports, junior high school level sports, and they start performing at that level, could it affect it? I think it probably would, actually, in a pretty high level because of the energy output, the potential of reactions with the musculature. They would give them more potential of moving forward, but it's still natural and it's still healthy, and there's no reason why it should ever be a banned substance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when taken in normal doses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The only other thing I want to say about creatine is the problem is unless you buy creatine monohydrate in its raw form with no other additives and not mixed with anything else.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and there's reasons for that, but
scientifically,
but
there is. That's true.
For uptake purposes.
Yep, that's true. That's very true.
The only thing you want to worry about is if creatine is combined with something else, which in more cases often than not it is. A lot of these large supplement companies that market to teenage boys and men in general to increase muscle size, they're pushing products that have creatine in them, but they also have a laundry list of other ingredients that are potentially detrimental.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And or less effective. Like here's the thing. Unless you're with all supplements, unless you're taking the clinically proven effective dosage for the outcome that you're looking for, you may not elicit the response that you want. You may elicit only a fraction. So what I'm getting at is that a lot of these supplements will be like, hey, take this creatine supplement. When in fact, does it have creatine? Yes. Is the majority of it creatine? Usually no. It's usually fillers. You might find like there's pre-workouts that market that has creatine. There's other types of creatine or strength improving, performance enhancing supplements that claim to have creatine in it. And though it doesn't have the clinically effective dose. And most supplements don't have the clinically effective dose. Only those lines of supplements that are truly dedicated to creating a quality product, and they cut margin in order to do that, to put the actual clinically effective dose in the supplement for whether we're talking about branched chain amino acids or creatine or caffeine. It doesn't really matter, but if you're not using the clinically proven effective dose, you're not even going to get the response necessarily that you want. 1 gram of creatine, I would argue you wouldn't even notice that versus not taking that supplement.
Well, and there's one other thing that I really think we should cover before we get to the end of this. I know we're getting closer to where we're going to be calling it, but and this is why when you brought up, this is why it even popped into my head, because you brought up especially in pre-workout stuff. Yeah. Creatine is something that you want to build over time anyway. It's not that you have to do a building stage, but if you're taking it over time,
a loading phase.
You don't need a loading phase. But if you're doing it over a certain period of time or forever, I don't think there's any reason to stop taking creatine. I think there's no evidence that you need to ever stop. That being said, that's when you're going to get the best effect. If you take something in a pre-workout that's got creatine in it, that's ridiculous. It's going to do very...
Not necessarily. It depends. Minimal. It depends on how soon you take it.
My point is, it's going to have a minimal effect because it's not going to actually affect your body's levels of creatine fast enough to do much.
Oh, but that's what I'm saying. It depends on the timing. Like
to an extent.
And I get that we're splitting hairs, but when it's an amino acid in its raw form, it does not have to be broken down or filtered nearly as much.
No, that's very true.
It comes right past the liver.
There's very truth to that.
Right into the bloodstream.
Sure.
Once that substance is present in the muscle cell where it needs to be for that metabolic pathway to take place, with something as easily digestible as a raw amino acid in that form, it could be in the place that it needs to be within.
But it's not going to be an instantaneously full scale thing in that timeline is what I'm saying. You'll have an effect. Don't get me wrong. I agree. Your point is very, very valid. But over time, how your body's going to get enough that it fills it to the point that it's full. Does that make sense? Because once it gets past
your creatine stores,
yes. Once it gets past a certain point,
well, then wouldn't the argument that a loading phase, should be used wouldn't that prove that argument?
Not if you're consistently using it.
So you're saying that if I'm taking 5 grams of creatine a day, I won't expel all that in a daily.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm saying
have you looked that up?
Only, like there's some things that I've seen on it, yes, but it's like I said, from what I've seen of it, doing something in a pre-workout exclusively is a waste of time. Doing it over a period of time makes sense. If you're going to do it creatine in the morning, it's just going to be just as effective as long as you're not doing massive things throughout the day to burn it out. It's going to be effective because it's already going to be in your system. And if you're using it consistently, you're always going to have that source. Does that make sense? I think that's kind of what I'm saying. I just think that a lot of these claims of I was going to say software companies. That tells you where my mind is computer based. Supplement companies. Supplement companies. Some of the claims is to push you to financially put more money into something because it's going to give you an instantaneous boost, boom. And you don't necessarily, I mean, it's not necessarily going to work like that because the way it works in your body.
Well, then comes the talk about why a lot of these creatine supplements have high amounts of sugar, because sugar expedites nutrient uptake
and I
rapidly.
think that's important too.
Like, do you remember when I talked about amino acid uptake being actually dramatically more sensitive pre-workout than post?
That's true.
And why, if you're going to nitpick and talk about nutrient timing, that raw amino acids versus versus any protein chain, but raw amino acids with up to 30 grams of sucrose taken pre-workout is actually more effective at uptake than it is post-workout. So your anabolic window, quote unquote, would actually really better be would be more better utilized pre-workout, and that would be so taking creatine with 30 or whatever grams of sucrose, wouldn't that increase its uptake?
In theory, it should.
So I guess
that's fair.
That's why these
that
companies
is kind of a fair point.
Yeah, so I think it. Again,
I think that's a splitting hair moment.
If you're looking for an edge in performance, creatine will give it to you in the right clinical effective dose, which is about 5 grams. Your timing of it, we'll need to look into the exact details. However,
I just think you need to be consistent.
On a common sense basis, it makes sense that if taken with a simple sugar, it's going to expedite uptake.
Oh yes, no,
give it enough
question.
time to get into the muscle. So
the evidence is without question. That's true. Without question, that's true. I mean, the science behind that is enormously pointing towards that being absolutely factual. That a sugar-based creatine combination is the best way to take it for effect. But like I said, if you're eating steaks on a consistent basis, and I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying if you're eating steaks on a consistent basis, you'll keep your creatine levels to, if you will, the max level that your body can hold, and at which point the rest of it's expelled. So that's the reason why I have a hard time with pre-stuff that's got creatine. I just think it's a waste of time overall. For that reason. I just think that your body needs it. Doing 20...
So how would you take it?
I would take probably in the realm of 5 grams a day. However I took it. If I did it through beef, I could do it through beef. If I did it through taking it with a creatine supplement.
Would you even mess with timing?
I wouldn't worry about timing at all. Because if your body gets to a certain level, it's at that level, and it doesn't hold more than that. So that's the reason why I would go that direction. But
see, I do take it as part of that concoction.
Which I'm not hating
could
on.
Be anecdotal, whatever, but
that's what I'm saying. I'm not
noticed
hating on it.
Significant, and I mean, I'm putting other ergogenic aids in there.
Of course you are.
It's a combination of things, but
like I said, I'm not hating on that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that you're not getting that much of a better reaction, because if you're consistent,
so
about
you
it,
think
it's
that the benefit I'm seeing from creatine is the creatine I took a couple of days ago is properly
in your system,
in my system, and
Absolutely.
being utilized during today's
Absolutely.
workout versus the stuff I took right before.
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting.
Absolutely.
I couldn't tell you yes or no on that one, to be honest. I'll have to look into it.
Cool.
All right, so there's some information on creatine for you. Listen, if you like Metabolic Radio, leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and we appreciate your support.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right, till next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Shane and I hope you learned something new and exciting today about your own health and fitness. Head over to metabolicradio.com. There you'll find our bios and our results-driven programs that are designed to help teach you everything you need to know when it comes to getting real permanent results. You can also sign up for our newsletter to get free weekly updates. To chat with Shane or I, just email us at taylor@metabolicradio.com or shane@metabolicradio.com. We would love to hear from you. You can also join the conversation on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search for Metabolic Radio Private Forum. There you can request to join the group. We would love to add you to the conversation and answer your questions on the show. And hey, if you like our podcast, please help us grow our community by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We would really appreciate your help. Thanks again so much for all your support and your listenership. Now go out there and spread the good word of fitness.